Right everybody, welcome back to What the Devil episode 13, lucky number 13. Today we're going to be talking about Erik ten Hag and his discipline times at United. We're going to be talking about Ineos changing their transfer plans and previewing the Coventry game. And remember to listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you can't watch the video on YouTube. And apart from that, we're going to get started. So this week, and especially on the weekend, headlines were dominated with the whole Alejandro Garnacho liking tweets about his substitution and everything. And a lot of comparisons have been made between how Ten Hag dealt with the Garnacho situation compared to how he dealt with the Sancho situation. And before we kind of delve deeper into this, I do want to make a point. So people are saying, it was unfair on Sancho, the way he treated Sancho compared to how he treated Garnacho, because Garnacho, it was swept under the rug, dealt with quickly, sorted and moved on. Whereas with Sancho, it took weeks over the international break. There was back and forth. He was out the squad and now he's on loan. I think a really key difference that not enough people are necessarily talking about is that Garnacho has now had his second discipline problem with Ten Hag. But both times he's apologised, regardless of if he thinks he's in the right or in the wrong, we don't know. But he's apologised to Ten Hag, he's fixed up, changed it, and he's seemingly now back in training, back in the squad, everything is fine. So I just want to bring up the larger point about, do you think Ten Hag's discipline has been consistent, or do you think he has at times favoured players? Because there has been some kind of accusations of, favouring some players over the others, for example, playing Anthony for a long period of time when he was out of form.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we don't really truly know behind the scenes stuff, but like you said, we know little bits and pieces which have been reported, and like you say, you'll give one player more leniency if they apologise. That's just, it's common sense. So Garnacho apologising and, for example, Rashford doing his thing in Ireland, was it, where he went on the piss. That's bad. He might have not played a couple games, but he apologised, comes back. I think he had one game out and then came back the next game. So I think it's hard to say whether it is I don't think as well any manager, I don't think Sir Alex disciplined players all the same, because that was one of the big man management kind of aspects of Sir Alex, is because he knew how to kind of treat each player, and maybe one player he'd absolute bollock in kind of training or half-time team talk, and one player he'd give them kind of the arm around the shoulder. That's what made him so good. So I don't think you need to discipline players exactly the same, and we don't exactly know how Ten Hag is doing it. But I mean, there are some bits which you do think maybe he should have kind of dropped Rashford for a couple games when he was after that. But was it Belfast?
Yeah,
Belfast incident. Maybe he should have dropped Anthony for a few more games after really poor form to I don't know. I think the more, maybe the bigger point to do with Ten Hag and maybe discipline is game time wise and kind of how much minutes he gives each player.
Yeah, I do think as well the big issue, a difference that people aren't necessarily talking about, is they're both grouping it as just bad social media activity. Garnacho liked a couple of tweets. Sancho did put out an entire statement effectively saying that Ten Hag, he practically brandished Ten Hag a liar, so to speak. And I also do want to just quickly introduce Isaac, our guest today. You guys may have seen him as United Cloud on Twitter, on Instagram, etc. And just, what are your thoughts on what's gone on, what's developed?
Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me on. I think that, the final point you made there is very important. Sancho was proactive, Garnacho was reactive in the way that they behaved on social media. I think you're seeing somebody who's actively gone out of his way to antagonise a manager. I don't think that Garnacho liking those tweets was necessarily for that. Maybe it was more after the game, you've got a little moment of really angry, we just dropped points in a very frustrating manner to Bournemouth. I came off, I played badly and I played pretty well the last few games. So, you've got to think about it from Garnacho's point of view. He's obviously a little bit frazzled. Then if you compare what's happened to Sancho, it was very much a case of this is up for, was it a week that his tweet was up for? And he's done nothing about it. So, I don't know, I think very different situations. So you can't really view them under the same sort of absolute sort of judgment.
Didn't you pin that tweet as well?
Yeah,
you pinned it.
Yeah.
Mad.
I think with Ten Hag, I've not been the biggest fan of Ten Hag, especially kind of since the turn of 2024. I think I've said this podcast a number of times. I'm not, completely sold on him. I was more so last season, but just things happened this season that may be partly out of control with the injury and everything, the injury crisis. But I do think one thing that he does have to have credit for is the way he's disciplined players. Because I think most of that squad have, or at least the some people in the squad who you may think are slightly more wild cards, he has whipped them into shape a bit, metaphorically, of course. So I want to say like Garnacho, I think, and he is one of them. Like it was the pre-season, not the most recent one, the one before, where Garnacho turned up late to a session. He dropped him from a squad entirely in pre-season, and I think that's one thing he has set the tone right, and I think that's done him quite good. And why he's got credit in the bank is because he's disciplined the players properly, so the players have therefore gotten behind him in a more uniform sense than it has happened under other managers who may not have been as kind of strict with their discipline.
It's interesting as well, because I remember Kobe Mainoo mentioning that Ten Hag was quite hard on him when he first came in because he was almost coasting through games at academy level. And I remember watching some of those games, and you could tell that he was better, and that happens with a lot of players who are like clearly good enough to eventually go to the first team, but they almost go through the motions while they're still at academy level. And he pushed him to kind of go, no, that's kind of not good enough. We want you to kind of run games at this level. And that would have almost definitely helped with his development to eventually go into the first team and look as confident and kind of composed as he is this season. So I think, like you said, it's kind of, there's different kind of elements of that discipline, which we have seen from Ten Hag and he has been praised for. But I think that's one which he does deserve credit for, because it's really easy for young players to kind of coast through that period. I think Isaac Hansen, who left, done it for a little while, where you did see that these players are clearly too good for this level and they're kind of letting their levels drop. Whereas it's not happening. It didn't happen with Kobe, and you've seen that it kind of helped him as he went into the first team.
No, I think as well, like all of these guys are very young men. You know, they're going to make mistakes. I think Sancho certainly was the guy who struggled mentally, physically. He struggled tactically as well at the start under Ten Hag. It took him a bit of time to get going. So, you know, you have to say, well, treat them with a little bit of leeway. I think it's inconsistent, isn't it? Because a lot of this sort of like tough discipline has worked really well. And I think there was a point at the start, and you spoke about being fairly uncertain on Ten Hag. I think at the start, lots of United fans are quite happy about sort of the breath of fresh air that was his man management, and you know how harsh he was and how he dealt with Ronaldo, and it was, you know, very authoritarian, and it was something we hadn't seen in a while. But I think it got to the point where it's like a lot of these guys just need a tap on the shoulder, and you know just you know, be careful with them. And I don't think he was very careful with how he dealt with Sancho. I was worried that the same would happen again with Garnacho. I'm not saying I'm on Sancho's side, by the way, because I think that Sancho was very much in the wrong. But I just think you've got to remember, these guys they're young men, and it didn't seem quite right that he completely banished Sancho in the way that he did. And I'm happy that he's not come down too harsh on Garnacho for something which is really annoying. And I don't know who Garnacho really thinks he is, having played 30 games in a row at 19 for Manchester United. Like, you know, Ten Hag clearly likes him and backs him. But I think you've got to be balanced with these things. And I'm happy that it has kind of been swept under the rug. I think it was the right thing to do.
One point I would actually like to add as well, because I was thinking about this a few days ago, but a lot of people do mention about Ten Hag's discipline and how well he's done with it. But I think you've also got to think that he's been afforded the opportunity to do these things. Like I don't think Mourinho, Ole, Van Gaal, David Moyes, I don't think they would have been given the power to completely isolate and loan a 75, 80 million pound asset and basically kick Cristiano Ronaldo out of the club. Like, those two moves are two moves which a lot of people say this is Ten Hag showing his authority to the entire squad, and like it's kind of two moves that needed to be done for people to know how much power Ten Hag has, and then it kind of trickles through the squad because they know that they can't do the same things. But I think if Mourinho had the power, he probably would have done the same thing with Pogba at that time when they were clashing. And there's probably other points where that could have happened with different managers, different players. But yeah, so I think it's interesting to kind of praise Ten Hag for the discipline kind of that he's installed at United. but also he's been one of probably the only manager that has been given the opportunity to do that, if that makes sense.
It does, but I want to quickly go back to something you just said, Isaac, about the whole Sancho thing, give them time. And Erik ten Hag was, I think, fantastic with Sancho the season before last, though. Because remember, Sancho went through a really tough time, and especially around the World Cup period, Ten Hag gave him multiple private coaches, kind of space over the World Cup to go and help kind of recreate himself, so to speak, after he went through a load of mental struggles. Obviously, we don't quite know what happened with his private life, but there was a load of stuff that clearly went on. And I do think that the reason Ten Hag's measures with Sancho may be a little more drastic this time round was because he got so much leeway beforehand. Was that Ten Hag put so much faith in Sancho to let him go away, do his own thing in his own time, no pressure, no demands, and then he brought him back into the team, and Sancho was playing all right throughout the kind of that second half of the season, of last season. Oh, it was last season, wasn't it? Of last season, and then this has happened over the summer because remember Sancho was also being tried as a number 10 in pre-season. Yeah. I think Ten Hag at the same time there is the side of him where he can have a softer touch when required. Like the way that I think Sir Alex had at times did have kind of a little bit of a softer touch, or at least he'd let players in the squad who had a softer touch take over on that side. And I think, it's just kind of overall, again, my point again is that I think Ten Hag's man management, I think, actually is quite good at United, contrary to what some people think. And I just think the two sides to what happened with Sancho are evidence that he can go both ways.
It's interesting as well, though, with man management. A lot of people determine man management success on how well the team are playing. If you could do the reason why so many people supported that Ronaldo kind of decision is because we were winning games at the time. We won the Carabao Cup a few months later, beat Barcelona in the Europa League, and everything was good. And then you can kind of defend it. Like a lot of people just determine it on success on the pitch. Like a lot of the decisions he made this season, if he exiled Sancho, but then we started to play good football and we were doing well in the league, no one would speak about it as much as they are kind of in the past couple months, especially now that he's at Dortmund and doing well and getting to the Champions League semi-final. It's all about success on the pitch. It seems that how people actually determine that man management success.
I think man management definitely is an indicator. Sorry, success on the pitch is definitely an indicator of man management, but it's not the be-all and end-all or like the defining thing that makes it.
I think as well, I mean, I'm currently a very stressed final year history student. One of the things that we look at is historiography, like what's the history of history? And this is something which is completely dependent on results, right? If Manchester United have been good, and you look at if for example this season we hadn't had such a tough time, we'd had some good results, maybe people look back on the Sancho thing the first time and the Ronaldo thing the first time in a different light to how they look back on it now. Now people are saying, like, that sort of Cristiano Ronaldo fan club brigade have all come out like, United are rubbish and Ten Hag's an idiot and he should never have got rid of Ronaldo. But if United are in a good position now, it's more of a case of, no, it was the correct decision to get rid of Ronaldo. And I think we're all rational guys here. I think we all think so. And I mean, it was a big problem, despite some sporting merit. So I think, it was very much a case of what's the lens you're looking at through and how is that influenced by results. And I think ultimately, what you said is a good point, Kane. It is a results business. So I kind of understand why the discourse comes in that way. But it does mean that you lose that sort of nuance, and all of these cases are isolated. You've got to look at them all individually and all as different cases rather than as a sort of sweeping Ten Hag's man management is good or bad. It can be good in cases, it can be bad in others.
Yeah, I think the Ronaldo signing was, I don't know if it was value for money or not, because obviously he only cost tens of millions, but we're going to move on now to our next game, which is blind rankings. So I'm going to give you guys 5 names, one after the other, but after each name, you have to then agree together where they would go on a list between 1 and 5, but you then only get the next name once you've told me where the name 4 is going to go. And just on the topic of value for money signings, that's going to be our first topic. So you're going to have to rank these Manchester United signings on value for money, not necessarily how successful they were or how good they were, but how valuable they were to the club compared to how much the club paid for them. And the first one is going to be Robin van Persie for 24 million.
I'm scared that there's going to be like some.
Yeah.
But then
Who could really be better value for money?
you're talking, what was it, 24? 24. I thought it was a little bit more than that.
Remember, it's 24 million in 2012.
Yeah, obviously. I don't know what that would probably. It was a high profile signing, like money wise, but it was still an absolute steal.
Yeah.
Maybe you are looking though at the kind of impact long term that he had. Obviously, absolute maximum in that 12-13 season. But,
but I think
there might be someone who's a longer term. I'm trying to think.
Who could it possibly be that was
Rooney?
Robin van Persie, 24 million, 1 to 5. Give me a number.
I'd say two. Just in case there's a.
But you're basically paying less than $1 million a league goal
It's
for
so
a title.
true, yeah.
Like it's a bargain.
It is.
Should we say 2?
I'll leave it to you. I'll say 2, but
'cause
I'm not against the 1.
What
But
if Rooney comes up?
exactly, that's what I'm thinking. We'll lock in
So
2.
you're locking in 2.
Yeah.
Next one, Juan Mata for a then British record fee of 37 million. Which was quickly smashed again by United.
I feel bad. I always feel bad when I talk about Juan Mata at United because he should have been. The way that people speak about David Silva at Man City, that should have been Juan Mata if he went to a side which was a dominant kind of on ball and played to the strengths of the small Spanish maestro, which they both kind of are. His careers, I just get. It's just depressing thinking of Mata but then again, you still think, and he contributed in an FA Cup final.
Yeah.
A lot of years of service. Was it 9 years?
8 seasons.
8 seasons.
That display at Anfield as well.
Do you think above or below Van Persie though?
Well,
that's your barometer at the minute.
Obviously not number 1, is it? No.
Yeah, it's not. I'm just thinking 3 or 4. It depends.
I'm thinking 4 or 5. I think.
Do you reckon?
Because I think, as much as I love Juan Mata as a player and was a huge fan at the time, and I know he was shoved out wide rather than being used in his sort of favoured role in the middle for most of the time he was here. And he was a brilliant player, but I don't think you can look at that, as you said, British transfer.
It was a record signing. So, do you think?
I'd say
do you think
4. I think with both Van Persie and Mata, they're both kind of.
Do you think there could be someone in between?
Yeah.
There's worse signings than Mata.
Yeah,
sure.
that's the thing. Yeah.
Okay.
4.
Yeah.
4. We'll go
4.
Yeah.
Next one then. The second time we signed Johnny Evans for free.
Oh.
Wait, is it Johnny Evans this season?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't want to put him. Well, it can't really
Value
be 5
for
though,
money.
can it? Because if it's value for money,
Yeah, but then
we've not been exactly great, have we?
if we win the FA Cup, maybe he goes
with Johnny scoring a belting header against City. But I guess value for money. He's probably been our first or second best centre back this season. I'd probably say him and Maguire.
But now I feel like an idiot putting him above Juan Mata.
We should have put Mata third.
The game is the
I'd
game.
say we have to go free.
Yeah.
But then I would say that if you're getting a player for free, especially if you're, I mean, this isn't the question, but if you're going against expectations as well, the expectations were quite low. You thought that he was probably only going to play a few cup games, and he's
3 or 5.
Quite a big role.
I'm going to need an answer.
But the Juan Mata won us the FA Cup. Can we put him above
so true. But it's, I think value for money, I'd say 3.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Let's go
I
3.
think Johnny Evans, number 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Value for money carries it.
He's on it.
So the next 2 have to be 1 and 5.
Oh shit.
Next one, Bruno Fernandes for 47 million.
Put him 1.
Yeah, I guess we have to. He's not. We should have put Van Persie first, to be fair.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I think
I would have put Bruno 2 and Van Persie 1, but.
Yeah, I'm not
It's
really
not too-
complaining too much
yeah.
about Bruno 1. Like,
All right,
Yeah, I
and
think
so-
that the kind of monetary as well, like 47 million for Bruno is
I think
a
it's
deal
a
and a
steal,
half. isn't it,
considering
really?
what he's done for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if you like him or not, you can't deny that he has been fantastic for us
Yeah.
overall. Last one, number 5. I think you guys have done well because it's Harry Maguire for 80 million.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
that's probably. I'd probably say that's not too bad. You can just either swap Evans and
your list
Mata
isn't
and
too
swap
bad.
Bruno and.
So you got Bruno Fernandes 1, Robin van Persie 2, Johnny Evans for the second time for 3 at 3, Juan Mata at 4, and Maguire at 5.
It's not too bad.
I think that's a decent
It's
list.
not too
You've done
bad.
all right. Next one
Feel bad for Van Persie.
The best players-
Single-handedly won us as Premier League.
is the best players from United's top 10 goal scorers. So you have to rank these players on just who was the best, and I've picked 5 from United's top 10. First one, Solskjaer.
Out of the top 10.
Top 10 scorers is a lot of good players.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of... I'm on this like trophy logic sort of thing.
Yeah.
But probably like 5, 6?
Yeah, 5 or 4, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Should we go 5? I'm thinking top 10. There's only ballers there, isn't there? So
There's like Martial. No disrespect to Martial, but he will probably be...
Oh, I messed up. I meant top 20.
Oh, okay.
Good thing I noticed that now.
I was going to say, he's probably around...
Yeah, Solskjaer's not top 10. He's 13, I believe.
I was going to say.
Okay.
Okay, that
top,
makes
top
it a bit
20.
of a change.
Should we
I'd say
say 4?
4,
Yeah.
maybe 4 or 3.
Is it 4 or 3?
We'll go
yeah,
4. We'll go 4.
4. All right. Next one, Wayne Rooney.
1.
1.
It's got to be.
You think Wayne Rooney number 1?
Yeah.
Easy choice.
Unbelievable.
Number 3, Marcus Rashford.
He's below Solskjaer.
Yeah, he's got to go 5.
5 or 6.
It's only
There's
5.
only
isn't it?
5.
Yeah,
Oh.
only 5.
We're not doing all 20.
I was excited then. Yeah, let's put him 5. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be, hasn't it? You can't
Yeah.
put him ahead of Solskjaer.
All right. Next one, Cristiano Ronaldo,
2.
2, yes.
which means
Oh, this is
for number 3, you've got David Beckham.
that's
Okay.
pretty spot on.
Again, I think decent
I'd
list.
say that's spot
Rooney,
on.
Ronaldo, Beckham, Solskjaer, Rashford.
That's perfect,
Yeah,
I reckon.
I think that's perfect.
As footballers, I think I'd actually put Rashford over Solskjaer. But obviously, current Rashford, no. But last season's Rashford, I'd put over Solskjaer
Solskjaer was a...
because he was nuts.
Was
Solskjaer was
unreal,
fantastic
yeah.
at one thing, a couple things.
Rashford
actually,
should
he
be
was
above
quite-
Solskjaer. Like, if it's
Talent,
potential.
talent.
And I'm talking about overall at their peak. I'd put Rashford number 4 there.
That's
But
dodgy. That's dodgy. So
he got 30 goals last season.
Solskjaer, I mean, I don't know Solskjaer
Rashford carried
season
us on
by
his
season,
back.
but season by season, Solskjaer was getting good numbers.
Oh
as
no,
a
I know,
rotation-
yeah,
as
no,
a
longevity in
rotation
consistency.
striker.
Solskjaer is clear, but I more just meant kind of if you to pick one player to form out their best for one game, I'd pick Rashford. But all right, we'll move on.
Let's go.
Next
let's
one. Rank these players during their breakthrough season at United.
Okay.
So I've got a list of 5 people who have come from United's academy, and you've got to list
All
them
academy.
on what their real breakthrough season is. So for example, like, I wouldn't count Garnacho last season's breakthrough season. I'd count this season.
Oh, would you?
Yeah, I'd
Oh,
count
fair.
this season as like breakthrough into the proper team.
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
Okay, I see what you mean.
So first one is
Like a-
Garnacho.
So if we're saying this season, I'd be saying. Obviously, there's a lot of academy players who have come.
Oh yeah,
through.
and just to help you guys, all these players have made their debuts since 2000.
Okay.
Okay, so we're not getting the class of 92
You're not getting that
kind
class
of
of 92,
guys.
That is helpful.
Yeah.
Do we put them 3? Because
I think down the middle of the road kind
Yeah.
of thing.
So
To be fair, this season has been you mentioned 30 consecutive games in the first season where you are starting games properly is really impressive.
Serious.
And in this United side where it's not ideal as a winger. Obviously, Bastian Schweinsteiger's interview came out earlier this morning, and he said that he would love to see Rashford play in a team where the winger gets the ball in more dangerous areas, basically,
rather
than running the length of the pitch to try and get a chance. So difficult circumstances, but we don't know who's coming through, so I think 3 is a safe bet. Yeah,
that's very fair. Yeah.
second one, Marcus Rashford.
Okay, since 2002, he's actually made their debut. I mean, we wouldn't have too many. Do we go? This is Rashford's first season.
It's above Garnacho, I'd say.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think of who's had a better breakthrough than Rashford. I'd probably say Cobby's has been better than. I'd put Cobby's number 1 if it comes up, to be fair, but
It's probably going to come up, isn't it?
yeah, that's why I kind of don't want to put because I think just on that point, I think it's a lot more impressive for a central midfielder to kind of break through into the team.
Yeah.
So I think that gives him extra point. I'd put Rashford 2 for that reason to kind of
On the premise that Cobby's
will
will come
if
up.
he comes out.
If Cobby's not on the list, please put him on there now. We'll put Rashford 2.
Yeah. We'll get
Next
to
one,
it.
Scott McTominay.
Ooh. So this is the season where he comes in and starts over Pogba in the quarter-final? Or is it the season before that?
I think that the season where he got it, Jose made his own award for him, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he made his debut towards the end of the campaign the season before against Arsenal.
Yes.
But that doesn't really count because that was towards the end of the campaign. So the season after that, yeah.
You put him 4.
Yeah. I feel like he was kind of a useful player, and obviously. I don't know. There's kind of mixed opinions about that Jose thing, isn't there? Giving him his own award, but it clearly, like Jose mentioned, he mentioned who was the interview with? Was it Rio Ferdinand 5, where he was like, "I've got my boys in my clubs," and he was like, "McTominay is one of them." But yeah, I think 4 is.
I mean, we talked about it earlier, obviously, but would Ten Hag give Garnacho his own award for his breakthrough this season if he was to make his own award?
Does the award not still exist? Manager's Player of the Year.
That wasn't the one that Scott McTominay got.
Was that not what it was? I thought.
No, he got an additional one. I remember.
I thought it was Mourinho made Manager's Player of the Year.
I don't
because there wasn't
so.
one before, and he picked McTominay.
I might be wrong, but I thought it was a separate one. But yeah.
Where are you putting McTominay?
We'll go 4.
4. All right. Next one, Danny Welbeck.
Oh, I was too busy playing at the Astro during those seasons.
I think we'll probably have to put him 5 because it's not going to be above.
Yeah, it's not going to be 1.
Who is number 1?
I'm really scared to know.
Yeah, it's got to be Covey. Come on.
So you're putting him 5?
Yeah, this is a bad list, but yeah.
Number 1 is Covey.
I'm happy with that. I think, like I said, what other central midfielder has come through and had a breakthrough season like him?
Well,
at
United, it's no one. But in more recent years from other clubs, I'd say Pogba at Juventus was similar because he was nuts as soon as he started there.
It's so much harder because you do look at Garnacho, and obviously we're saying this, if you're saying this season is his breakthrough season, a winger's allowed to have kind of seasons where they get fed in a little bit more slowly because it's so much easier to bring a winger on halfway through a game to make an impact. It's kind of easy to start them, and if they have a poor game, it doesn't affect the team as much. Whereas a central midfielder, they need to basically be consistent and ready as soon as they come in, because if they have poor games, that's detrimental to the team, because if they're in such a key position, you can get away with it at kind of wing or maybe not striker, because that is a little bit more kind of unforgiving with the chance, lack of chances at United that you get. But yeah, I think that I'm happy with Cobby top.
That's
Cobby top and Rashford second. I think they're
out of that list. I think Mainoo's he's clear at the top.
Yeah.
And so next list, we've got 2 more left. Jose Mourinho's signings. You've got to rank them in terms of how successful they were at the club. Not necessarily how good the player is, but how successful they were at United. First one, Nemanja Matic.
Ooh, I mean, Matic never actually won a trophy at United, did he?
Oh, it's surprising as well. Isn't it? He came just after that Jose's first season where they won
Jose's
a couple.
treble, yeah.
And left just before we won the Carabao Cup. I feel like, especially those early seasons, that first season of Matic, he was very, very good. And then post-lockdown Matic, he was very good. It was just a shame that you also didn't have someone of a similar. You either went for Matic, who was more of the kind of possession-based, maybe not as combative, like out of possession, to Fred and McTominay, where they were the complete opposite, like not as cultured on the ball, but they were a lot more kind of energetic, and that's why Ollie kind of preferred them for the most part. But
so where's he going?
I love Nemanja Matic.
I think he was a good player.
You gonna tell him?
Nemanja, I love you. That could be Vidic as well. But I used to have a Matic shirt. I loved him so much. He was like my favourite.
Oh, that's a bit rogue. Fair enough.
I like those sorts of screeny sort of.
Are you thinking?
I'm saying
up towards the top of the list.
Not top.
I think put him bang in the middle.
Yeah.
Number 3.
I think he was a decent signing. Unfortunate that he didn't win anything.
So
United, really.
we're going number 3.
Yeah.
Number 3. So second one, Diogo Dalot.
Oh, I'm biased here.
I really like Dalot. And Mourinho called it, fair play to him, because there was a lot of doubt, and he still kind of said, like, Dalot's... I'm not sure if you're biased one way or the other.
Oh, no, mate, I'm like Diogo Dalot fan club.
Great.
Number 1.
I really do like Dalot. I'd say second. I think Dalot's got potential to be very good. Like, I think if you could hopefully ask this in 3 years and go number 1, because he's kind of continued that trajectory.
He'll be 29 then. Dalot in 3 years.
Really? I
think he's 26, 25, 26.
He just turned 25.
Just turned 20. Okay, so he's 28.
Yeah, I think you can't put him 1 because it's really only been since last season where he's really had an impact on the team.
I don't know. I would be known to put him 1.
So I'm going to need an answer though. 1 or 2.
You go for it, mate.
Can I put him 1?
All right, you can put him number 1.
We just got to hope. But no, I'm
Number 3.
That's Ibra, man. That's Ibra.
Number 3, Paul Pogba.
Oh no, Ibra's going to come up. I'm going to have to put Ibra like 4th or something like that.
Pogba. So this isn't this is just on the player, how
successful
good
they were.
at
How good of
United.
a signing were they at United?
Well, ultimately,
take-
probably not as successful as you would have liked.
Yeah.
Probably
so we put Matic 3.
You've got Matic 3, Dalot 1.
Dalot. I love Dalot as well, but I think that was a mistake.
So you've got 2, 4 and 5 left, and you've got 3 names. One of them is Pogba.
Pogba 4.
I think we have to, because I think there's going to be a better signing to put in that second position.
I love Pogba, but like the end of it was a nightmare.
It's just sad.
It was just such a sad.
Yeah.
It's a Shakespearean tragedy.
Yeah. If you're just talking like just footballing ability,
1,
then yeah, it's
0.
probably 1.
Yeah.
But if you are bringing in all the different compartments, like even
think
some of the
maybe
injuries which you got later
4
on,
then.
Interviews to stabilising the squad.
Yeah.
Mm.
But
Four.
I say 4 then, unfortunately.
Next one, Fred.
5.
Yeah, he's got to be. I
love
like
Fred.
Fred.
I love all these guys, but like Fred.
He's doing bits in Turkey
he's
as
doing
well.
really well.
I've still got his notifications on FootMob, and I think he's kind of. They've not been winning as much recently. I'm not too sure, but I remember I looked at his stats and it was like every single game that he played, they won, and he missed a couple games and they drew and lost. So it looks like he's
Fred was a
doing
good
well
player,
out there.
just not for the 52 million we bought him.
Yeah,
It was
don't
bad
really
value
think
for money
about
signing.
that.
But I actually think he was, pretty decent.
Do you know what? You don't really think about how big the Fred fee was.
I think a good way to see how good value for money players were is if their price tag isn't mentioned. Like, so with Mata, he was a record signing, but after a couple of years, people didn't really mention that we paid a record signing. That's partly because we then beat it with Di Maria. But at the same time, I think it's and same with Matic. People didn't really go, I spent 40 million on like a 29-year-old Matic.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's a decent barometer, but you're going to go number 5.
Yeah, it's got to be 5.
And the last one, Lukaku.
Sad.
Who's going number 2?
Sad. Who did we put 3 again?
Matic.
You put
That's
Matic at
actually
3.
not awful.
That's not an awful list.
Lukaku, it's because his first season was solid.
He was brilliant.
It was when
He
he
was
was
amazing.
slim, powerful.
Also, we got decent resale value. Like we lost
Yeah,
a bit
very
of money.
true.
Yeah,
Very true.
yeah, it was
Probably one of the
only
only
about
players
10
in
million.
history that we've bloody got.
Yeah,
resale
Lukaku and Dan
value from.
James. Yeah.
Yeah, Lukaku, Dan James, Ronaldo, decent. Obviously, Ronaldo's resale value was nuts because it was a world record.
Just
fee.
too bad Lukaku had that kind of. He was one of the United players that just seemed to massively bulk up when he comes to the
It
club.
was the 2018 World Cup. He bulked up for the 2018 World Cup, I think it was.
Because he was.
And then he never really
Brilliant in that World Cup.
And then when it came back to United and we had the fast-paced, especially under Solskjaer, didn't work.
Yeah.
Although his crosses from the right
that
wing.
right wing Lukaku spell.
Yeah, his assist for England. Sorry, against England.
Yeah, very
outside of the
good.
boot for Tielemans was lovely.
Sometimes you think that if he was the one getting those crosses.
Yeah, if
would've
Lukaku
been-
crossed to
would've-
himself, it would be amazing.
He's the type of guy that would do that as well.
Yeah.
So last list is just current United squad members.
Okay.
So number 1, Bruno Fernandes.
He's probably got to go 1.
He's a
hasn't he?
captain. I think he's our most. I know he's like his way of playing football is inherently quite inconsistent across 90 minutes, but he is very consistent in what he does. He will always give you 100% effort. He gets output. He creates chances. He leads from the front. I know he's a bit of a bitch sometimes, but like he's a lovely man off the pitch by all accounts too, and he just seems like a really decent person who deserves to be the captain. I've got so much time for him.
Yeah, I do agree.
Number 1.
There's kind of fair debate about Bruno as well. Some completely unfair. There is some fair debate, but I think you do consider all things. And I think we've spoke about this previously on one of the other podcasts, but I find it funny that people say that he relies on transition ball, where I think that's where he plays his worst football. I think if United actually kind of calm down and get a better start, I think he still excels in that kind of thing. So hopefully we'll see him.
He's being asked to do this transition stuff as well. That's part of the idea.
Yeah.
So
No.
So, number 1 for Bruno Fernandes.
I think it's got to be Ant.
Yeah.
Number 2, Andre Onana.
I'd probably... straight away, I'm thinking 3. Champions League campaign, absolutely horrendous.
Yeah.
But he's recovered well from it, and he is just a really good goalkeeper who is being asked to do things which he's not good. Like, you don't buy Ederson for Manchester City and then let that goalkeeper... Imagine what Ederson would be like if he was just facing 40 shots a game and not being able to play out at all. I mean, I think part of it was Onana at the start, because I remember his starting position. We all thought it was this sweeper keeper, and he was almost stuck to his line as much as De Gea was near the start. And I think that was almost his poor start, kind of affecting confidence maybe.
Yeah.
But I think over the course of the season, we're seeing him improve. Maybe I'm speaking about it now. I'm maybe thinking 4, just because we haven't seen that team which is making him excel yet.
Yeah.
So we haven't actually seen it at United
I
yet.
saw that clip the other day on the timeline of him in the Champions League final,
same.
that compilation. And I just thought,
he was amazing.
yeah. What happened to this guy?
Good.
Like, why is he not? Why have we not got this version of Andre Onana? I mean, I think a lot of it is because of the tactics.
Because he was in a team that got to the Champions League final.
Precisely.
They were just that Inter team was really, really good.
Yeah.
And City narrowly beat them 1-0 in the final as well. It's not like City swept the floor with them. In the way of obviously City were the dominating team in that game.
It's interesting.
But Inter
well,
were fantastic.
Though. Like, would you two of the best goalkeepers? I mean, Alisson, complete freak, but the Arsenal and City. I wouldn't say that Ederson or Raya are better shot stoppers than or completely better shot stoppers. I think they're all probably in a similar realm. It's just the other two are in teams where they don't really need to care about too much shot stopping. They're excelling through their ball playing abilities, which Onana is better than Raya, arguable with Ederson. They're kind of probably the two best. But one's getting to excel and one's not.
Yeah. So back to the game. Where's he going?
I'd probably say 4, just because we haven't seen that yet, and he's had an okay season by all accounts. If you're going Premier League and Champions League together,
he did just win our Player of the Month as well.
Yeah.
So you're going 4, 3?
4 or 3 in my opinion. What do you reckon?
I'm tempted to go 3, just because I think on the face value
there are a lot of players in this squad.
I think there are quite a few players below him. I think
we put him 3
in the squad. All right, 3. Next one, Johnny Evans.
I'd probably go 4. He can't go 2, can he? 4 or 5.
Yeah, no, he's not going 2. As much as I've got a lot of time for him, he can't go 2. I think
you probably.
I think you've got to put him 5.
Yeah.
I think just if you're going to look at him, like, I don't know how many sort of metrics we're going to use to judge this here, but if you're looking at like age,
I'd agree with 5, because I think kind of what he's done is good, but I think what he's done is the maximum he can possibly do.
Yeah. And also I do think when you're talking about Johnny Evans' performances, you are kind of also considering what you expected from him.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the performances where people have praised him for, he has been good, but he's not been as good as people are making out.
He is United's 5th choice centre-back at the end of the day.
And it's going, he played really well against this team, but before when you saw the team sheet, you were going, oh God, Evans at the start of the season especially. So he's above people's expectations, but he should not be anywhere near a starting lineup. Yeah. Apart from in the Carabao Cup next season, really.
So you think 5?
If he even stays, that is.
Yeah.
Number 5.
Number 5. Cool. 4th one, Rasmus Højlund. You got 2 and 4 left.
Oh. This is risky. This is.
So under Onana or.
Yeah, is he above or below Onana?
I feel. I don't know.
It would be harsh to put him below Onana because Onana's had really bad moments, but then Højlund's had really bad spells this year too.
Yeah, I think with Højlund, especially recently, I feel like he's either on top of people either consider him on top of the world or all the way down. It's either completely his fault or he's getting no help whatsoever. Where it is somewhere in the middle. And
I think if I'm a new manager, let's hypothetically say that Ten Hag is sacked. I'm the new manager coming in. I'm looking at the resources I've got in this United squad. I think I value Højlund incredibly highly.
Yeah, if you are taking into consideration kind of the future kind of potential, he's probably 2.
I think so.
Yeah, if you are considering those factors, probably.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've gone. What's your list so far? You've got Bruno at top, Højlund 2, Onana 3, Evans 5, which means number 4 is Dalot.
So who's...
Onana's above him. I mean,
this season, Dallow's probably won.
Yeah.
I think he's still playing.
Yeah.
I mean, he had
I
a
think
couple dodgy games recently, but I'd still say...
Overall player of the season, because he's one of the 3 players who's actually been available for the whole season.
yeah, and I think for like 80% of the games, he's been brilliant. I think like physically, mentally, like tactically, in terms of how he fits into this system or anyone's system, really, because of just how good he is physically. I think Dallow's fantastic. There's not too many better right backs than him out on the market. I think if you look at all these different positions, like one for one, can you replace him in the market with a better player? I think with Dallow, you know, you're not going to go and sign Reece James, and he can't even stay fit anyway. Yeah. So, like, I think, you know, maybe 4 is harsh ultimately, but then I don't know. I think the top 4 have all been pretty good by and large.
I don't think it's I think Dallow 4 may be the only.
Yeah, I think if you probably just drop Onana and who did we put in second?
Hoyland.
If you just dropped them and stuck Dallow above them, that's probably the ideal list there, but not too bad.
I think that was our weakest list, but they were all pretty decent.
I think your list. I think you've done quite well with the list. Yeah.
There's
been some. I think last time we did it, when I did it with Flex and Yusuf, there was a horror show. I think it was like the 99 final or something was like last on a list of United's most iconic games or something like that. Yeah, it was something like that. It was ridiculous. But yeah, so Dallow's been performing well this season, even when he's been out. And Wan-Bissaka's been quite good. And I'm going to move on now to talking about Ineos and their transfer plans and a transfer change. So earlier on this season, it was said that United were looking to sign a right back this summer. But the last reports in the last 3 weeks, and I think something from Ornstein specifically as well, has said that United are actually now looking at a left back rather than a right back. And I think it shows that Ineos, I think, assuming this is true, that they've changed from wanting a right back to a left back, shows that Ineos are being quite dynamic with the recruitments they want to make on the field, because they're willing to see, like, you know, change and accept change and see where other areas might be, with United's right backs being much more consistently available than our left backs, who have probably spent a total, like, Malassi has been out for the whole season, Luke Shaw was on his second 3-month layoff of the campaign. And I think that a lot of this transfer change actually has to do with Wan-Bissaka, again, surprising people with how kind of good he can be. Because you remember last season, Dallow was definitely, pre-World Cup, Dallow was kind of that guy at right back. Then after the World Cup, I think it was Wan-Bissaka played really well in a couple of games when Dallow was out. And Wan-Bissaka was looking fantastic. He came on in the FA Cup semi-finals this time last year against Mitoma and just destroyed him after Dallow was being turned in the final
as well, in the final of the Carabao Cup.
And I've also been really surprised with how decent overall Wan-Bissaka has been at left back. He's not looked like a player who's played right back his whole career and then just been shoved in at left back. I think he's been all right.
I don't know. I think it's the whole thing with Wan-Bissaka playing left back is really interesting, because I think everyone knows that Dallow's the better left back out of the two, but I kind of agree with keeping him at right back while there's no left backs, because he's playing his best football this season, and I think you don't want to create 2 problems when there's only one. Kind of, and getting rid of his kind of contributions on the right. So I agree with that decision. I don't know. I think Wan-Bissaka's doing as much as we could want him to do there. Obviously, I think it's perfect decision against Liverpool, where you've got the likes of Salah, who he basically locked up both times when we played them. I think obviously we all know 1v1 monster, but he's limited in build up on the right at points. So on the left, it is a bit harder for him. And there are points where you do see him look a bit uncomfortable, because he doesn't really use his left foot. No. And he can't really dribble as much as he usually does on the right as well in those kind of spaces on the left, because he's kind of moving inside to midfield if he tries to.
I think quite a lot of people say that Wan-Bissaka looks quite unnatural when he dribbles, and I think he kind of does. But we know that actually,
it works.
I think it works quite well.
Yeah.
I remember it was last season, he had this a series of combos. I think it was McTominay on the right hand side. Yeah. Where they were playing 1-2 touches around like 4 or 5 players. And I was like, where's this Wan-Bissaka been?
Was that against City?
There was one against City, but I think there was like multiple games he was actually like doing very well, and he was seemingly becoming more confident putting crosses in.
There's a clip against Leicester. It was right under where I sit at Old Trafford, where he was just doing it with Sancho. It was like 4 flicks, in, out, in, out.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
And I don't know, I think he is much more technically comfortable than people give him credit for. But the fact that he has got these sort of aesthetic limitations come from the fact that he is very one-footed and he is quite unconventional. And I think that is really exacerbated on the left because he doesn't have a left foot, really. I think it's definitely a square peg in a round hole, but it is definitely an adequate square peg. It's not. It's still a decent, like, pragmatic solution. I don't know though. I guess you're going to move on to like talking about left backs, right backs, long term. The thing with Wan-Bissaka for me is that he's really, really valuable asset. Like, you could probably get a decent fee for selling him. I think that's what's attractive about the prospect of maybe offloading him if he's not going to be first choice.
But surely wouldn't Ineos changing from wanting a right back to wanting a left back means that maybe they've decided to keep him? Because the left back, I think there's just... I remember I think you mentioned it before, Kane, like having two different profiles at right back isn't necessarily the best solution because it means when one isn't available, then you bring in Wan-Bissaka, you have to kind of change the game because Wan-Bissaka just cannot do what Dalot does for the team. Not to say he's better or worse, although Dalot is better. Like having to change the dynamic that much due to one stuff isn't great. But what I was just going to kind of lead on to is, do you think that this change from Ineos signals red flags for both Shaw and Malacia, and I think more so for Luke Shaw?
Yeah, potentially. I think the main the reason is Malacia's long-term absence, because I think you don't know when a player's out for this long, you don't know what they're going to be like when they return. Yeah. So you could be planning with Shaw and Malacia next season, and Malacia could have another injury easily. And of course, Shaw's injury prone as well. So you've got two worrying players there. So I don't know if Ineos have done that, because obviously there were a lot of right back links. I don't know if that is almost forced because of the injury. I mean, it probably is almost forced because you can't really trust either of them. I think with Luke Shaw, like you mentioned, it is worrying for him. It's just a shame because I think Luke Shaw is obviously such a important and kind of useful player when he's fully fit. But it was another example where I feel like he's always got these kind of 2-3 month injuries whenever there's not a real kind of backup left back with him. I think when Alex Tellez came in and he was starting quite a few games like near the start of the season, I think when he first came in under Ollie, Shaw was actually available for the most part of that season, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Same again as last season. I think he was out for a couple months. I think Shaw is one of these players who he's always going to have probably like he's not going to be a 60-game player at season. He'll be a 38 to 40 game, which is still a really useful player in your squad if you manage them correctly. But it seems that when we've been in situations where kind of he's being relied on too much. There was that season where we had both him and Maguire absolutely look shot after playing so many games the previous season, and our build-up died because they were so important to it. And then I think that either they were picking up small injuries or they weren't playing as well because they were kind of overplayed almost. I think that's the main problem with Shaw. And there's the conversation whether you think, is it worth enough to just go out and get a backup left back again if Malacia's not kind of reliable, to then hope that Shaw can play these 40 to 45 games a season because he's really useful? Or do you go, right, we've done this for a fair few years now, are we just going to look at really talented left backs to take that left back spot and kind of have someone to come in as the first starter? Obviously, as well, another point is that we've got talented kind of players in the academy. Harry Amas has started training with the first team.
This is one thing I wanted to point out, is what I think is actually why it's a potential big red flag for Luke Shaw is, so the more specific parts of the reports, not necessarily from what Ornstein said, but in general, is that United are looking at like a young left back, and one of the players linked was that bloke from Bournemouth who was really good against us.
Milos Kerkez.
Yeah. I think he's one of the players who United reportedly have been scouting. And if you've got Luke Shaw, so Malacia realistically isn't going to be sold this summer, right? And let's say he's a good squad player to have. I'd say the chance of him being sold this season or next season are kind of low.
Yeah.
Because he's not like high enough value to want to move on if you want to put someone else in the team.
Yeah.
You got Luke Shaw, then Tyrell Malacia, then this whatever new left back they buy who's like 19, 20, 21 years old. And then you've also got Harry Amas who's 18. You've then got 4 left backs there. One of them's an academy player who won't be sold yet. Malacia probably won't be sold yet. The new left back, because he just signed him, probably won't be sold yet, which makes Luke Shaw the most likely left back to be sold. Potentially.
Yeah, I kind of understand that, but I always think with Luke Shaw, I don't see him go. Like, I can't imagine a transfer for Luke Shaw. And it's also, even though there's going to be a team who would want to take the risk, because if you get him and he's fit, he's such a useful player to, I'd say, most clubs around Europe.
Yeah.
But there is a major risk still around his signing, because a lot of clubs know about his injury record.
I do think he's like a very unique player in that, you know, he can do the high and wide, he can invert, he can play as a centre-back even. I think there's not many players out there who can do all of that to such a high level as he can. So that does make him an attractive squad option at the very least. I think you listed those 4 possible left-backs then. I think if you have Shaw as part of your squad, then that's fine. He hasn't got to necessarily be a starter. He's getting on a little bit over the next few seasons. And if he is fit, then you can start him and he's brilliant, so that's fine. Maybe Malacia is the one where Ineos have thought, well, we don't know all the details about Tyrell Malacia's absence. What if he is injured and it's just like, I know he's had some failed knee surgeries. What if that's just a potential long term, as in career sort of...
Career derailing thing.
Yeah. That could be the problem. Amas, you're in a position now maybe where you can say, well, we've got this super talented guy, and rather than having to do what we did with Kobbie Mainoo, who is obviously slightly exceptional because he's probably a rubber stamp generational talent, and maybe that's a bit of a bold claim, but you know, Amas is brilliant.
I think you're fine with that one.
But you know, you can now take control over it and say, well, we'll put him out on loan for a season or 2, and maybe we can send him to Nice as part of a multi-club thing. You know, maybe now we can be a bit more careful with the development of our young talents. And you know, if it is Kerkes or if it's someone like Bradley Locko or something like that, you've got somebody in that can do a job and can still have the same sort of profile as Luke Shaw in terms of build-up and in terms of how they fit into the last line of attack. Maybe we're in a position where we can be a little bit more, you know, we can manage these things. And I don't know, I do love Luke Shaw, I don't want him to go. I don't think he should go either. But
I'm not necessarily saying I think he should go, but I just think that if this goes through, there is a potential issue for sure, because a lot of players with Ineos coming in, I think there is kind of either better or for worse, there is a clean slate issue here. Obviously, Shaw, the reason he's kept so often is because there has been so much history of him showing what he can do, especially like at points this season and last season as well. He was fantastic. But if there is this whole clean slate thing, which I think is overall the Ineos approach, is for better or for worse, they're just going to kind of make decisions from what happens, maybe backtracking 18 months or something.
I do back
what's going to happen.
I back him to turn it around. Yeah, I think if he can.
I hope so.
If he can get fit, I think he's.
We've been saying that for 8 years. Though. We have been saying that for so long.
I think it all is kind of dependent on him having a backup. Because let's look back to how he got injured. It was because he got injured at half-time, got rushed back, and got injured at half-time again. If you had Malacia fit, or even had Wan-Bissaka fit at that point, it might have literally been a 2-week kind of outlay and he would have been back. But because he is such a unique profile, and the fact that we didn't have anyone else, he was forced back too early. And if it was a different player, it probably would have got more like attention about maybe Ten Hag kind of picking him and make it. But I don't think it really got mentioned whatsoever, because it's just painting Luke Shaw going, it's the injury, it's the injury prone guy. Whereas if that was a lot of other players in the squad, maybe a lot of people would have went. That was quite poor management from Ten Hag, maybe, because he's brought him back straight away. Obviously, then you consider that Ten Hag's not got a left back and he's kind of got to do what he's got to do.
He's got Lindelof there,
there's Shaw, like you said, he's too good when he's good to kind of
to let go.
But I would be more open to. I mean, speaking about the whole point about left back over right back, I think I would be more open to kind of United actually maybe splashing a little bit more cash and trying to get maybe a left back who is an actual challenger for him, because Alex Telles and Tyrone Malacia are both like they're clear backups to Luke Shaw when they're all fit.
Yeah.
I think it would be good to maybe have an actual left back who will properly challenge him, because that was the argument, wasn't it? It was all about, Luke Shaw plays well when he gets challenged, but neither of them are as good as him. So it would be nice to see that.
I don't think there's too many out there that are. Which is part of it. So that's why you've got to get someone younger, I think.
I think the idea is, because there's not many who are now. The idea is get someone who can be in a couple of years. I was really impressed with that. Again, I forgot his name. The Bournemouth guy.
Kirkes.
Yeah, I was quite impressed with him. He was getting he was bombing down the left-hand side. Yeah, it was good fun to watch. But Isaac, as every time we have a guest on here, we like to test them about their Manchester United ball knowledge. So you're going to have 2 minutes to answer as many Manchester United questions as you can. You ready?
Yes.
Your time starts now. Who cost more, Bruno Fernandes or Lisandro Martinez?
Lisandro Martinez.
Incorrect. Old Trafford is situated on what road?
Matt Budby Way.
Correct. What player has a chant labelling them the greatest player in the Premier League?
Pass.
Juan Mata. What is the current capacity of Old Trafford?
72,000.
74,000. Is Marcus Rashford within Manchester United's top 15 all-time goal scorers?
Not yet.
No. Correct. Who was Sir Alex Ferguson's last signing for Man United?
I know. Pass.
Wilfried Zaha.
Oh.
In what year was Old Trafford built?
1904.
Close, 1910. Who was captain of Manchester United during their historic treble-winning season?
Roy Keane.
Correct. The West Stand at Old Trafford is more famously known as what?
Stretford End.
Correct. In how many seasons has Johnny Evans appeared for Manchester United?
12.
9. Which player holds the record for the most Manchester United goals?
Wayne Rooney.
Correct. Who were Manchester United playing when Eric Cantona kung fu kicked a fan?
Palace.
Correct. How much did Manchester United buy Ander Herrera for?
34 million.
29 million. Who won the penalty that Marcus Rashford scored in Paris?
Diogo Dalot.
Correct. Which 2 players were suspended for the 1999 final of the Champions League?
Roy Keane and Paul Scholes.
Correct. Name 3 players who have won the Ballon d'Or while playing for United.
Ronaldo, Best and Charlton.
Correct. Name 1 ground that United have played at before moving to Old Trafford.
Main Road.
North Road of Bank Street. Who wore the number 5 shirt before Harry Maguire?
Marcos Rojo.
Good. Who was the only player to win the European Golden Boot while playing for Man United?
Ronaldo.
Correct. And that is time! 11.
Okay.
That is very good. So you're only behind Flex, who got 12, and Yusuf, who got 13. Honestly, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
But last topic, we're now going to move on to the FA Cup semi-final. I kind of forgot this game was happening until the other day, where it's kind of like crept up on me, and I'm like, we're going to Wembley on the weekend, on Sunday. I'm not personally, I wish. But I think you are, Isaac, aren't you?
Yeah.
And so,
although I thought it was on Saturday. So
yeah.
That sums it all up, doesn't it?
So what we're going to talk about now is a bit more focused on Coventry, because, being real, I don't know much about Coventry. I know that they scored winners against Wolves. I know that obviously you hear of the FA Cup run. I know Coventry is a place in the UK, and I know Ellis Sims because he was at Everton last season. But beyond that, I don't know a lot about Coventry. So I'm going to kind of hand over to you, Isaac, to give us a little bit more about, who are Coventry?
Yeah.
What should United expect?
I did a little bit of research, and I kind of follow them a little bit. One of my best mates is a Leicester City fan, and he hates Coventry.
Yeah.
So it's like the same sort of way that I might hate watch Liverpool. Sometimes I hate watch a bit of Cov. But I've got to say, there's a lot of very talented players there. I think Ben Sheaf's well talked about. He's like a combative, quite diminutive midfielder who will be really aggressive. He's very progressive passer. He's very sort of high energy footballer, and I think he's got a lot of plaudits, not just between Coventry fans, but between fans of the Championship this season. Obviously, I think we've got the man Ellis Sims there, who Ahmad's talked about, and he's been at Sunderland, he's been Everton, he's always been talked about as one of the best sort of talents around. as English strikers go. I think he's a really good player. Obviously, he scored quite a lot of goals this season. Haji Wright as well, American guy. I remember him quite well from the sort of American World Cup sort of hype and everything like that. And I think it's him and Sims are the guys who are talked about quite a lot. Although Coventry are coming into this game off the back of a bit of a hiding. I don't know if anyone saw, but there was this clip in the week of Birmingham's American owner. And it wasn't the most like inspiring thing, but he comes in going, "This is our house," and like, you know, he's making a big
the most American thing ever.
Yeah, he's coming in like he's some sort of baseball guy, not soccer, but they ended up actually showing Coventry that it, you know, was their house and they weren't messing around.
3-0, wasn't it? Yeah.
3-0 demolition.
Did they get battered?
Yeah.
Ooh.
So they're coming into this. Maybe they're hurting. Maybe they're, I don't know, tails are down a little bit.
Keen for revenge.
Yeah.
Something with United, which I've said this for years and years and years now, is I think United so often only play as well as their opposition. So that's why we're able to draw with Liverpool, who are challenging for the title, and then 2-2, and also draw with Bournemouth 2-2. Yeah. Is that we play almost to the level of opposition.
Chelsea effect.
I would be absolutely shocked if we won this like 3-0 or something. Like absolutely.
I'm a bit
shocked.
worried that if we're playing Championship, League One?
Yeah, Championship.
Oh, that was whoops. If we're playing Championship opposition, we're going to play like a Championship team.
Yeah.
And I do think there are definitely going to be periods where Coventry, just like against who was the team we played where we won 4-2 in the FA Cup?
Newport.
Yeah. There were periods against when Newport were battering us on the ball.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And there are going to be, there just are going to be periods in this game where that's going to happen. So I'm just wondering, how much do you know about kind of their style? You know, what do you know what we should expect?
I'm no expert, but I think they're quite, I mean, I watched quite a lot of them last season, more so. My Coventry hating flatmate has now gone to America on a year abroad, so less of that this year. But obviously last year they had Jokerets and they've replaced him with Sims. So they were quite direct when I saw them a bit last year. But I don't feel qualified enough, and I think any Coventry fans watching might come for me if I said anything too wrong. But they are quite an aggressive team, quite progressive, proactive. So I think it's going to be a sort of game that might suit United. I'm worried that they'll take a very pragmatic approach and there'll be this sort of end-to-end chaos once again. But I think generally a lot of it depends on us. Like what United turn up. Are we going to be compact? Are we going to recycle the ball well, or are we just going to be doing this thing again where we're punting it long from the goalkeeper?
Especially on the like you don't like end-to-end games anyway, but on a Wembley pitch where it's the biggest pitch in the bloody country, it seems.
Yeah.
You don't like end-to-end games on that pitch. You want to be able to control possession. You want to be able to kind of pin them back and make them do more running than you in the game. So, yeah, you want United to kind of have that approach, but kind of like you said, Dale, it does feel like I would be so surprised if United just had a comfortable afternoon's work. Like I wouldn't be surprised if it's just a tight game for 70 minutes. We might score a winner, they might score, and then we might score in the 91st minute. Like I feel like it's going to be chaos no matter what. So I'm really hoping
they'll be fancying it, won't they? They'll be up for it.
Oh, 100%, yeah. But I think it's kind of, because it's an FA Cup semi-final like Wembley for Coventry, they're going to be up for it no matter who they're playing. They'll be up for it if they're playing Man City. Like
but there's
obviously
a
United. One of their defenders said, "So happy we got United over City and Chelsea," because United have so many. Obviously, admittedly, Chelsea do as well. But United have so many bad days. It's not even. We can have good days that still have bad periods.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I'm just going to be up for it. Just try and stay positive. See what happens.
I don't think they're a very good side. I think compared to last season, they're nowhere near as good as they were.
They're mid-table and
they're 8th or 10th, somewhere between 8th and 10th. They're not in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to get into those either.
It's the FA Cup, man.
Also, it's a good point that, I mean, apart from the Champions League, which, let's be honest, it was mostly Onana and a couple really dodgy red cards from referees.
The red card from Rashford, yeah.
But really, that was embarrassing. But there were kind of reasons for it. You thought Ten Hag has been quite good in cup competition since he's came in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm kind of quite confident that we're going to win, but not play well.
Yeah, it's going to be another one of those. Yeah. So,
always is.
Last thing, score predictions.
I'll go 3-2 because there's going to be goals.
3-2?
There's going to be goals. It's United.
Oh, that's not going to be fun to watch.
There's going to be 30
I'm
goals against
only
Onana.
rocking on the floor.
30 shots against Onana.
Isaac,
sorry.
what do you think? Score prediction?
I think we'll win 3-1. I think we're going to concede because we're going to make it hard for ourselves because that's what we do.
I think we're guaranteed to concede, mainly because we've got Camboire and Maguire at the back.
Hopefully he has another Liverpool game. I felt bad for him that last game.
But I think he'll bounce back from it. I think his whole career so far.
He's going to have.
It is the perfect game to bounce back.
Yeah.
It's against the opposition who you fancy. You know, Ellis Sims is good. Haji Wright is good. They're good players. They'll be on his side as well. But this is a Coventry team who are in the Championship not doing so well.
Yeah, man for man, obviously United are the superior.
And it's a huge fixture, so it's one to really show yourself on.
And he was good against Liverpool in the other massive fixture he's played. But I'm going to go with 2-1.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. It's all close. It's going to be close, and unfortunately, I would love it to be 3-0.
We're going to lose now.
3-0 is my kind of...
Yeah, it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
But Isaac, thank you so much for coming on this week. If you guys enjoyed, please let us know in the comments. If you want any improvements, let us know. Let us know what you thought as well. And remember, it is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you played along with blind ranking games, let us know what your order was. Apart from that, we'll see you next week.